This is the aXpire weekly update. Let's start with a few housekeeping items. Then we'll go into what's going on with the products. Then we can go into some industry-specific news. Then we can go into some regulation-specific news. So starting with the housekeeping items, very excited to show the entire community and welcome to all the new folks who've just joined us. Our new white paper, the aXpire Whitepaper v2.0.0. This is a continually evolving document, so please keep in mind that we are super open to your feedback. Please give any that you can to info@aXpire.com. We'd love to know your feedback. This is really just intended as an overview of the way we think about things in blockchain. And if you want to go into some of the products, they're there as well. We've also kind of dived a little bit higher level in the form of a one-pager or a light paper, more or less, the equivalent now, which we have on our site in the resources section. I would look at the resources section for both the white paper and the one-pager here. And this is really just product specific, going through each product, how it relates to tokenomics. And that's been something we've tried to get better and better at over time, making tokenomics very friendly for the average token holder and making sure that they benefit specifically by holding aXpire over any other ERC20 or BEP2 token. So onto the products. PayBX just launched its first website, which is a microsite intended to have people sign up, get alerted when we're ready to come out. Please drop your email off there. If you're already in the system, we'll just remove the duplicate, but you'll get all the updates to do with PayBX. This is a really exciting product. As a spend tech company, we've focused mostly on the B2B side of things. Having something firstly in the B2C side is a big step for us. Empowering people to access their finances in the real world with crypto is powerful. Having the instances that we're about to show you in some of the news stories where, you know, the Dallas Mavericks accept Bitcoin or XYZ hotel accepts Bitcoin. With PayBX, it's going to be every NBA team. It's going to be every hotel. It's going to be every online store or every in-person store that can accept any form of card. So that's really exciting. A little bit of information on the site about what this solution is, what this product is, also in the one pager and the white paper, but check it out. Finally, we've done a new thread on the housekeeping side of things with our white paper that's about to be uploaded, with our website, with all our socials on there. So please give us some feedback on Bitcoin Talk. All these things I'll include in the show notes or the video notes. The final housekeeping item in that case is really to talk about our integration with the Magnum wallet. The high quality wallet, it's going to integrate both our ERC20 and our BEP2 token standards, which is very exciting. There's an ongoing airdrop which is going to last until August 30th or until we have about 10,000 subscribers, whichever comes sooner, and the tokens are locked for a couple months. So please, if you're a new token holder as part of this program, try and learn more about the project. Check out the pinned message in Telegram, check out what we've got in the white paper and the light paper, see if it's worth sticking around for you, because I promise you we have exciting things coming up. On to a little bit more about industry news in just a second, but to touch on some product developments, we have Resolver looking at a new phase of its anchor client. So we've got a 6-figure check coming in from that as of late, which is great. We have Biller, which is our billing tool related to Resolver. It's baked into Resolver in many instances, but it's standalone as well. That tool is about to be used in the largest or one of the 2 largest investment banks in the world. That will have an impact on the burn, and we'll let you know about that. Same thing with Resolver when more information is relevant for the broader community. On the B2C side, Matchbox is taking longer than anticipated. We changed some back-end devs around to free up folks to work on PayBX. So Matchbox is probably going to be a September development. I know, ironic that I have backed on the screen while I'm talking about pushing out a product launch, but trust us, it's worth it. On the PayBX side, as I said, we've got a new microsite up. We've got a very exciting partner in Japan that I'd love to share more details on. And then finally, you know, this is something that we think will be the go-to B2C product for aXpire. The last product in our suite is Coinbox, which is a more tokenization-friendly tool. In my inbox, as of literally 10 minutes ago, I got another inbound for tokenizing real estate. This is something that happens all the time for us. So we're getting inbounds constantly on tokenizing assets. It's not necessarily going to be real estate only. It may be focused on private equity secondaries. It might be focused on illiquid funds in other forms, but the basics are that this tool will allow a marketplace to function for tokenized securities. This is more of a back end of 2020 style discussion if it does go live and become a big part of our business, but it was something as a vestige that we had from our ICO, the token launch tool, and we decided to make it its own product, just given it was mostly built anyways. But it's an exciting space, tokenization. I mean, the numbers being thrown out are anywhere from a couple trillion to 4 trillion in terms of the illiquid assets that can be tokenized. So a lot of exciting things there. We'll probably focus on a specific niche, and specifically a niche that speaks to institutional investors. So something like real estate or private equity secondaries, as I touched on just there. Moving to industry news, Bakkt says it's cleared to launch by New York next month on September 23rd. The Bakkt, which is a subsidiary of the Intercontinental Exchange, the guy is responsible for the New York Stock Exchange, etc. This young subsidiary of the New York Stock Exchange company just announced yesterday on August 16th that it was going to be acquired, or it had acquired rather, a New York State trust charter through the New York State Department of Financial Services, which essentially says it can do its physically settled Bitcoin futures program, which is great. This is something we were looking at towards the end of 2018. It got delayed by the regulation side of things, and now they've finally gotten permission rather than having to ask for forgiveness, which is a big thing in crypto. So moving on to other regulatory news or industry news with regulatory focus, the Binance US arm is going to go live in November. They are actually having to unfortunately shut off access to US folks in September, so there's going to be a month and a bit overlap where there's no actual place where US investors can touch their assets or US investors can use the Binance platform, but that's only going to be for a brief period of time. So I think it's very encouraging that CZ is trying to make a vestige or a safe place for these US investors to trade. It's quite a tough regulatory environment in the US. But moving on into other industry news, as I mentioned earlier, the Dallas Mavericks, the NBA team, are going to start accepting Bitcoin. They're the second NBA team to do so. They're powered by BitPay, good on BitPay. They're very much focused on the B2B side of these crypto payments. So good to see that they're doing well in the space. They are sponsored or invested in by our friends over at Aqualine Technology Growth. So this is definitely good news for everyone in the payment space. Another interesting development in the blockchain industry is the patent application by Walmart for blockchain-backed drone communication. It's blown up. This has been something that they've been working on with blockchain patents as it relates to drones for a while now. This isn't the first one they've published, so it's exciting to see this one come out and get some more attention. They also have applied for a patent for a company-specific cryptocurrency. So this is things that we talked about in 2017 to 2018 as, oh, can you imagine a future where all these companies are going to be doing that? It's happening right now. So this is proof among Amazon, Facebook, Google, all these companies that are actually doing it, that despite the volatility and despite what you may be hearing on the news, is this thing going to survive? These companies are very much saying one thing and doing another. So follow the money, follow the resources, and you'll see that blockchain is alive and kicking, and institutional investors are only getting more interested, which we can talk about now in the next story, with Coinbase becoming the largest cryptocurrency custodian with 7 billion in assets under custody, which is fantastic in terms of investors coming to the space from the institutional side of things. I know that we want crypto to be by the people, for the people, and I think you can have that balance with the stability that institutionalization brings into the space. So don't fret. I think it actually helps us offset the bad actors who are in some cases dumping large amounts of crypto or moving crypto between exchanges to make it look like there's a potential for a large dump and hurting these smaller guys. So we think it's good news at aXpire. Finally, there's an article from Morgan Creek Capital CEO Mark Yesko saying that he believes Bitcoin could act as a hedge against the biggest bond bubble in the US market's history. It's going to be interesting to see if that's true or not. It's such a small space right now, the crypto space. It's hard to say what the overlap will be between those and institutional investors or bond investors who tend to be institutional investors. So we will see if it's a haven versus a correlated asset in due time. It's only been around, call it 10 years. So I think that it's too early to say, but I would say that the asymmetric risk of Bitcoin is far better as a profile than other assets such as gold or such as real estate, where the upside is quite low, the downside is relatively large compared to that upside. So it doesn't make sense versus Bitcoin, where you're losing 10 grand, but it could go to 100 grand. You know, that's the kind of dichotomy versus gold. It's trading at 1,400 an ounce. It could go to 12 or 1,100 an ounce, or it could go to $2,000, $2,500 an ounce. But the risk reward of that is not as attractive of a ratio as a crypto asset. So I I'd say for that reason alone, regardless of whether you think it's a hedge or not, it's worth having a little of the crypto asset industry in your portfolio. Moving on to regulatory news, the SEC is delaying its decision on 3 Bitcoin ETFs until September and October. No surprise, but I'm glad they're still talking to folks like Bitwise, who've hosted a number of seminars on how the volume in the space is a little bit manipulated. And I think we all know that to be the case. You look at CoinMarketCap, places like that, they've got some work to do on improving their volume accuracy. So I think shining a light on that is not a bad thing necessarily. And even though they've been delayed a little bit by requiring more institutionalization in the space before they get approved for an ETF, the fact they're still talking and taking these guys seriously, the SEC that is a positive sign. Moving abroad, we'll see that there are some interesting developments in the Republic of China, or the Chinese-backed central currency, which is an interesting development. So you can see kind of in this headline here in the URL that the Central Bank of China is discussing a currency for themselves. So after 5 years of development, they've been talking about this, 5 years of development, they're finally coming out with a central bank currency. So as I just talked about with corporations, governments, or massive groups of people with power, similarly to what you'll find in exclusive groups, they all act the same way. If there's an opportunity for them to profit, or there's an opportunity for them to make gain in any way, they're going to do that, but they're not going to broadcast to everyone that they're going into an asset in advance so that their upside is reduced. No, they're going to tell you that they're not sure about this asset. They're going to tell you that they have nothing to do with it. They don't want anything to do with it. They're going to get in, they're going to accumulate, and then they're going to pump it up once the upside is real. So they're going to buy as cheap as they can, and then they're going to sell it for as much as they can. So keep in mind that people say one thing and do another, particularly in government and large corporations. So China's coming out with a central bank currency. I don't think the US is all that different, to be honest, in terms of the way they think as a large organization. So let's see what they do. Obviously, there's very different cultural aspects of Chinese government and US government, but I think large groups of people who have a lot to gain by saying one thing and doing another are probably going to do it. Finally on that, there's a judgment from India's Supreme Court that the Indian banking system, the RBI, acted illegally in persecuting those who were holding cryptocurrencies, saying that it was outside of their jurisdiction, more or less, and there is more to come there. But as a company with an office in India, we find that quite encouraging that they are being told to back off a little bit in terms of what they're allowed to do. The RBI, the banking system of India, let people run an innovation business, let people innovate, and don't require them to jump through all these hoops just to start a startup. It's crazy. It's blatantly corrupt, blatantly pointing to the fact that there are entrenched interests trying to keep out competitors. It's not a healthy environment to support, so good to see the Supreme Court take some action there. We'll see how that develops. This is from Crypto Canoon, which is a blockchain and crypto news source in India. I would recommend giving them a follow. They're an interesting news source. They talk a little bit about the way the Supreme Court judged on this case, and it came to fruition apparently relatively quickly that the RBI was illegal in its attempts to quash cryptocurrencies. So helpful news coming out of India there. And that's pretty much it for the regulation and industry news for the moment. There was a quick little snippet at the end here, which I'll include in the show notes, about a new blockchain voting effort from Utah for people abroad. I'll share it in the show notes, but I think ending on the news in India is quite a positive one for aXpire, given that we have an office there. We're doing payments, which is a massive industry in that country, specifically that country that uses so much of the traditional finance and remittances services, things like Western Union, things like MoneyPay, where you're looking at 10+% fees to send a transaction abroad. So they're just getting completely ripped off. And so the opportunity for cryptocurrencies here is massive. So we're excited to see that it's still on the table. We'll wait with bated breath for the crypto side of things. Even if that doesn't work out, we're excited on the blockchain side of things in India because they already have sandboxes being set up. So again, saying one thing, doing another. Keep in mind that these countries do not want to be on the wrong side of history here. So this is it for this week. Very excited to have such a great group of folks in the aXpire community. Thank you to all the new people for joining, and thank you to all those who stuck with us since our initial launch in January 2018. The white paper's out, products are to follow. We'll keep delivering if you keep supporting. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend. Bye.